Quit pretending you don't know your place. Your job is to stay home and be quiet while I handle the real life. My husband, Jason, said that to me in our kitchen the same night my pilot brother called to ask why Jason was in business class. 3 months later, in a crowded airport lounge, Jason's smile cracked and his mother went stiff when my brother stepped forward and said, "As always, before we dive into a story with an ending that's going to feel really satisfying for you, let's do a quick roll call. Type present and the city you're watching from in the comments. For everyone who has liked and subscribed, I pray that Allah makes your problems easier, widens your provision, and keeps your body healthy. Thank you, my friends. Now listen carefully to my story. I used to think the hardest part of marriage would be learning how to share space. Like, okay, 2 adults, 1 closet, 1 bathroom schedule, 1 set of bills. That kind of normal stress. I was so wrong. Because the real problem wasn't sharing space with Jason. It was realizing I didn't actually know who I was sharing it with. When I say my brother is a pilot, I'm not saying it like it's some cute detail. Ryan's the kind of pilot who notices everything. He's calm under pressure, he's trained to read people, and he's seen enough weird behavior in airports to smell trouble before it happens. Ryan has also always been protective. Not in an annoying way. More like, I'll let you live your life, but if someone hurts you, I'll remember their face forever. So when Ryan called me one afternoon while I was folding towels on my couch, I answered like normal. "Hey," I said, balancing the phone between my shoulder and my ear. "How's the sky today?" He didn't laugh. He didn't even do his usual dramatic sigh. Instead, he said, "Claire, where's Jason right now?" I paused, towel in my hands, and frowned at the quiet in his voice. "He's home. He's working from home today." There was a beat of silence. Then Ryan said, slow and careful, "No, he isn't." My stomach turned, like I'd missed a step on stairs. "What do you mean?" Ryan's voice stayed controlled, but I could hear something sharp underneath it. "I'm on a turnaround. Boarding just ended. I walked through business class 10 minutes ago." I felt my throat get tight. "Okay, and your husband is sitting in 3C, he said, with a girl in 3D, and she's wearing his hoodie." My mouth opened, but no sound came out. Ryan kept going because he knows I freeze when I'm shocked. He's always known. She had her legs tucked up under her, like she owns the seat. She was laughing at something on his phone. And then she leaned her head on his shoulder, like it's normal. The towel slid out of my hands and landed on the floor. I stared at it like it was the only stable thing in the room. "No," I whispered. That's not possible." "Claire," Ryan said, and this time his voice softened. "I'm not guessing. I'm not confused. I'm looking at him." My heart started pounding, so hard it felt like my ribs were too small. Jason had told me he was home. He had kissed my forehead that morning and said, "I'll be on calls all day." He had even complained about how annoying his manager was. I swallowed, forcing my voice to work. What's the route?" Ryan exhaled. "Chicago to San Diego." San Diego. The same city Jason's company had a small partner office in. The same city he'd mentioned once, casually, like it didn't matter. My hands started shaking so badly I had to sit down. "Are you sure it's him?" Ryan's voice hardened again. "Claire." He turned and looked right at me. I don't think he recognized me at first because of the uniform and the angle. But then he did. And he went pale. I pressed my palm to my forehead, trying to breathe. Ryan continued, quieter now. He grabbed his drink like he suddenly needed something to hold. And the girl looked up at him like she was asking, "What's wrong?" My chest felt tight, like someone was pushing down on it. "Did you take a picture?" I asked, and I hated how desperate I sounded.
"I did," Ryan said.
"I didn't want you thinking this was some misunderstanding." I took 2 photos and a short video walking past. I also snapped the manifest page I had access to for the cabin count. Don't ask me how. I blinked, tears burning my eyes. "Ryan, I'm sending it now," he said. "But listen to me. Don't confront him while you're alone, okay? Not until you've processed. Not until you're safe." I tried to breathe again. "Why are you saying it like that?" Because Ryan is the kind of person who doesn't get dramatic for no reason. He hesitated, then said, because the way he looked at me wasn't guilt, Claire. It was panic. Like he wasn't just caught cheating, like he was caught doing something he really, really needed to hide. My phone buzzed.
Twice.
Then again. I didn't open the messages yet. I was scared that if I saw it, it would become fully real, and my entire life would split into a before and after. I whispered. He told me he was home. Ryan's voice softened. I know. I stared at the hallway, at our bedroom door, at the neat little life I'd built with this man. And I felt something cold settle inside me. Because suddenly, every small strange thing from the last year floated up like dirty bubbles. Jason being weirdly protective of his phone. Jason insisting we keep our finances simple, which really meant he handled everything and I asked permission for big purchases. Jason encouraging me to quit my job after we married, because you'll be happier at home. And me like an idiot, thinking it was love. Claire, Ryan said, talk to me. Where are you right now? On the couch, I whispered. At home. Good, he said. Lock the door. Don't spiral. And don't let him gaslight you. I'll call you after we land. When the call ended, my living room felt too quiet. I opened the messages. The first photo hit me like a slap. Jason. In a crisp button-up I had ironed 2 days ago. Sitting in business class like he belonged there, relaxed, comfortable. And beside him, a young woman with long dark hair wearing Jason's gray hoodie. My hoodie, technically, because I bought it for him for Christmas. Her head was tilted toward him, smiling. The second photo was closer. Jason's hand was on her knee under the little business class table, casual, intimate. Then there was the short video, Ryan walking past, the angle quick and shaky, but clear enough that I could see Jason's face tense the exact second he realized he'd been seen. I covered my mouth. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there, shaking, like my body was trying to decide if this was a nightmare or a real threat. Then my phone buzzed again. A text from Jason. Hey babe, I'm jumping on a long call. Might be quiet for a few hours. I stared at it until my eyes blurred. Something inside me snapped, not into rage, but into a dangerous kind of clarity. Because that text wasn't a mistake.
It was a choice.
He was lying to my face while sitting on a plane with another woman, and he was doing it like it was normal. And in that moment, I realized something else too. If he could lie that smoothly, he'd been lying for a long time. I wiped my eyes, stood up, and locked the front door like Ryan told me. Then I sat back down and forced myself to think. Not about love. Not about betrayal.
About logistics. Safety. Proof.
Because if Jason came home and saw me crying, he would know Ryan told me. And if he panicked the way Ryan said he did, I didn't like what a panicked liar might do. So, I did something I'd never done before. I played along. When Jason finally called me that night, he sounded cheerful, almost smug. Hey, he said. Sorry, babe. Crazy day. I kept my voice steady, even though my hands were still trembling. It's okay. How's working from home? There was the smallest pause.
Fine.
Just meetings. Must be exhausting, I said softly. Yeah, he replied. I might take a shower soon and crash early. I stared at the wall, imagining him thousands of miles away. You deserve rest, I said. He chuckled. You always take care of me, Claire. And that right there, those words, made me feel sick. Because he didn't sound like a man cheating in the heat of some messy mistake. He sounded like a man managing 2 lives. After we hung up, I sat in the dark and let the tears come quietly. Not because I was weak, because I was grieving the version of my marriage I thought I had. And while I cried, another thought kept creeping in. If Jason could fake being home, what else was he faking? The next morning, I drove to my in-laws' house. Not because I wanted comfort, because I wanted to observe. Jason's mother, Mrs. Harrington, had never liked me. She didn't even try to hide it. She smiled at me like I was a stain she couldn't scrub out of her son's life. Her house was immaculate in a cold way. White couches no one sat on, glass tables that reflected everything, framed photos of Jason at different ages, like he was the only person who mattered. When I walked in, she looked me up and down. "Claire," she said, dragging out my name. "You look tired." I forced a polite smile. "Busy week." She sniffed. "That's what happens when you stay home doing nothing but still manage to look worn out." I swallowed the insult like I always did. Her husband, Mr. Harrington, was sitting in his leather chair, reading the paper like the world didn't involve him. Jason's younger sister, Vanessa, was there too, scrolling on her phone, bored. I sat on the edge of the couch, spine straight, hands folded. I wanted to check in. "Jason's been working a lot." Mrs. Harrington's smile sharpened. "That's because he's ambitious. Men like Jason carry the world on their backs. A wife should make that easier, not add stress." I nodded, pretending. Vanessa looked up and smirked. "Still trying for a baby?" My face warmed. "We were taking our time." Mrs. Harrington clicked her tongue. "Time is not something you have forever, dear. A man needs a legacy. A home without children is empty." My hands tightened in my lap. This was the humiliation she loved, bringing up my fertility like it was entertainment. I forced my voice to stay calm. "We're happy." Mrs. Harrington leaned forward slightly, eyes bright. "Jason deserves more than happy. He deserves a wife who can give him a real family, not just companionship." I stared at her, feeling my pulse in my throat. And then she said it soft, like she was giving advice. "Sometimes men look elsewhere when they're not fulfilled at home. That's not always the man's fault." My heart dropped. It was subtle enough that Vanessa could pretend it was harmless. But it landed like a warning. Or maybe the confession. I managed a small laugh. Jason would tell me if something was wrong. Mrs. Harrington's gaze stayed locked on me, like she was testing how naive I was. Would he? Mr. Harrington turned a page of his newspaper, like he couldn't care less. Vanessa went back to her phone. And I sat there, suddenly understanding something horrible. This wasn't new. They knew. Maybe not the full details, but they knew Jason had options, and they were fine with it. On my way home, my phone buzzed. "Ryan," landed. "Call me when you're alone." I pulled into a grocery store parking lot and called him immediately. Ryan didn't waste time. "Did you confront him?" "No," I whispered. "I went to his mom's house." Ryan exhaled. "And?" "She hinted at it," I said, voice shaking. Like she was proud. Like she was saying it's normal. Ryan went quiet for a second, then said, "Claire, there's more." My stomach clenched. "More than cheating?" "I didn't just see them being affectionate," he said carefully. "I heard a piece of their conversation when I walked past the first time." I gripped the steering wheel. "What did they say?" Ryan hesitated, then said, "The girl laughed and said, 'So, she still thinks you're home?' And Jason said, 'She believes whatever I tell her. That's why this is easy.'" I felt like I couldn't breathe. I whispered, "He said that?" Ryan's voice was tight.
"Yeah."
And then he said something else that bothered me. He said, "Once everything is signed, we're done pretending."
My mouth went dry.
"Signed what?" "I don't know," Ryan admitted. "But it didn't sound like romance. It sounded like a plan." A plan? I sat there in my car, staring at strangers walking in and out of the store with their normal lives. "Okay," I forced out. "Okay, I'll look." "Good," Ryan said. "Start with finances."
Documents.
"Anything he's been weird about?" I drove home like I was floating outside my body. When I stepped into my house, everything looked the same. But it didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like a stage set. That night, Jason came home. He walked in with his suitcase like it was no big deal, kissed my cheek, and said, "Sorry, babe. Surprise trip. I didn't want you stressing." I looked at him, really looked. His eyes were bright. His skin had that "I just traveled" dryness. He was lying without even flinching. I smiled softly, like the old me. "It's okay. I missed you." He relaxed instantly, like he'd just passed a test. "Good," he said, rubbing my shoulder. "I'm starving. Did you cook?" And there it was. Not even guilt. Just entitlement. While he showered, I did what Ryan told me. I started looking. Jason kept most documents in a locked drawer in his office. He always said it was work stuff. He'd never given me the key. But I knew where he kept his spare keys. Because I was his wife. Because I cleaned this house. Because I was the one who noticed everything he didn't think mattered. I found the spare key ring in the kitchen junk drawer under old batteries and takeout menus. My hands were shaking as I walked into his office. I unlocked the drawer. Inside were folders, bank statements, insurance, property documents, company paperwork. At first it looked normal. Then I saw it. A life insurance policy. With my name on it. Not as the beneficiary. As the insured. My stomach turned as I flipped through the pages. The payout amount was huge. Bigger than anything we'd ever talked about. And the beneficiary was Jason. Not me. Not our family. Jason alone. I felt cold. I kept reading. There was also a second document, an accidental death and dismemberment add-on, with language about travel incidents. Travel.
Planes. Cars.
My mouth went dry. I forced myself not to spiral. I took photos of every page with my phone, hands trembling so badly the pictures came out blurry at first. Then I found something else. A draft document titled Post-Nuptial Agreement. I blinked at it like it couldn't be real. Jason had never mentioned this. I skimmed it, heart racing. It talked about separate property, asset division, and a clause that would leave me with almost nothing if we separated. And then, in the back pocket of the folder, there was an unsigned copy of a power of attorney form. My vision blurred. I sat down in Jason's office chair, trying to breathe quietly. This wasn't just cheating. This was paperwork. This was preparation. This was someone setting up a future where I had no control. A future where, if something happened to me, Jason would gain everything. And my brother, a pilot who understood risk like it was a second language, had just told me Jason sounded like he was waiting for something to be signed. I heard the shower turn off. My body jolted like I'd been shocked. I scrambled, put everything back exactly how it was, locked the drawer, and returned the spare key to the junk drawer. Then I walked into the kitchen, forced a smile, and started boiling pasta like I was just a normal wife. Jason came out in sweatpants, towel around his neck, and hugged me from behind. "You're the best," he murmured into my hair. I smiled, but my skin crawled. "Long trip?" I asked casually. "Brutal," he said, "but worth it. Meetings went great." "Did you fly business?" I asked, keeping my tone light like I didn't already know. He froze just for half a second. Then he laughed. "No, babe. Economy. I'm not a celebrity." I turned slightly, letting him see my face. And for a second, I watched him decide which version of himself to use. He kissed my cheek again. "You worry too much." There it was. The first gaslight. Just a small one, like a test. I nodded. "Yeah, you're right." Jason's shoulders loosened again, like he was relieved I didn't push. Over dinner, he talked about business growth and future planning. I sat across from him, watching his mouth move, thinking about the girl in 3D wearing my hoodie, thinking about the insurance policy in a locked drawer, thinking about my entire life being treated like something he could rearrange with a signature. A week later, he started the next phase. The sweet husband act. He brought home flowers. He offered to massage my shoulders. He even said, "Maybe we should plan a little trip soon. Just us. A reset." And if this was the old me, I would have melted. But now, every sweet gesture felt like bait. One night, while he scrolled on his phone, I said softly, "Jason, do you think we're okay?" He didn't look up. "Of course we are." "I just feel like you've been distant," I said, careful. "And your mom keeps making comments about babies and, I don't know. It's getting to me." Jason sighed dramatically and finally looked at me like I was exhausting him. "Claire," he said slowly, "you're doing it again." My stomach tightened. "Doing what?" "Creating drama out of nothing," he said. "My mom is old school. Ignore it. And if you're upset, it's because you're insecure, not because anyone is attacking you." My fingers curled around the edge of the couch cushion. "That's not fair." Jason's eyes narrowed, and his voice dropped into that calm tone that always made me question myself. Listen, he said. You're sensitive. You always have been. And I love you for it, okay? But you cannot keep accusing people of things. It's embarrassing. Accusing. I hadn't even said cheating. I swallowed. I'm not accusing. I'm just asking. Jason leaned forward, elbows on his knees, like he was the reasonable one. Claire, he said, do you want to be the kind of wife who pushes her husband away? Because that happens. Women nag, men leave. My throat tightened. Are you threatening me? He laughed like I was ridiculous.
See?
You twist things. That's exactly what I mean. He reached out, patted my knee in a way that felt more like control than comfort, and said, let's just focus on what matters. We need to finalize some paperwork soon. It's about taxes and future planning. It'll protect us. Paperwork. My skin went cold. What paperwork? I asked lightly, like I wasn't terrified. Jason smiled. Just boring adult stuff. You trust me, right? I forced a smile back. Of course. He looked pleased, like he'd won. That night, after he fell asleep, I texted Ryan. Me. He mentioned paperwork. Something about protecting us. I found an insurance policy and a postnuptial draft. Ryan, Claire, don't sign anything. I'm serious. I'm coming home this weekend. Me. He's acting extra sweet. Ryan, that's not sweetness. That's strategy. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to Jason's breathing beside me, and for the first time in my marriage, I felt like I was sleeping next to a stranger. A stranger who might be setting up a future where I didn't exist. The next humiliation came at a family dinner at my in-laws' house. Mrs. Harrington insisted on hosting because she loved having an audience. The dining table was set like a magazine spread, perfect napkins, perfect lighting, perfect everything. But the conversation was never perfect. It was always designed to cut me. Vanessa was there. Mr. Harrington was there. And Jason's cousin, Brooke, had come too. One of those women who smiles while watching you bleed emotionally. Mrs. Harrington served roast chicken and then, like it was casual, said, Jason tells me you've been emotional lately, Claire. I froze with my fork midair. Jason didn't even look embarrassed. He just sipped his wine like this was normal.
Brooke tilted her head.
Emotional how? Mrs. Harrington sighed, acting concerned. Oh, you know. Insecure. Paranoid. The usual when a woman doesn't have much to show for herself. My face burned. I looked at Jason, silently begging him to stop it. He shrugged slightly like, what do you want me to do? Mrs. Harrington leaned forward, eyes sharp. A wife should make herself valuable. If you can't give a man children, at least be easy to live with. Brooke let out a little laugh. Vanessa smirked. My throat tightened so hard it felt like swallowing glass. I forced myself to speak. I'm trying. Mrs. Harrington's smile turned cold. Trying isn't producing, dear. I felt tears push at my eyes, and I hated myself for it. Jason finally spoke, but not to defend me. He looked at me and said, Claire, don't make this awkward. I stared at him, at the man who was supposed to be my partner. And suddenly, the hook line he'd thrown at me later in our kitchen felt like it was already forming in the air. Mrs. Harrington set her fork down gently and said, Jason, you're too kind. Some men would have replaced her by now. She turned her gaze back to me. You should be grateful he still keeps you here.
Keeps me.
Like I was an object. Like I was a pet. Something inside me went still. Not numb. Focused. Because I understood the dynamic now. They didn't see me as Jason's equal. They saw me as a placeholder. And if I was a placeholder, then what would they do when they were ready to replace me? On the drive home, Jason acted like nothing happened. He even hummed along to the radio. I stared out the window, counting streetlights, trying to keep my breathing normal. When we got home, he kicked off his shoes and said, You were quiet. I forced a calm tone. I didn't want to cry in front of your mom. Jason rolled his eyes. She's blunt. It's not personal. It feels personal, I said quietly. Jason's face tightened.
There.
That tone. That victim tone. I swallowed. Jason. He cut me off, voice sharpening. Quit acting like you don't know your place. Your job is to stay home and be quiet while I handle the real life. I went completely still. The words hit me like a slap, not because they were new, but because he finally said the truth out loud. My hands started shaking. My place? Jason sighed like I was exhausting him. Claire, I'm trying to build our future. You want to sit around and overthink everything. It's unattractive. I stared at him, suddenly seeing him.
Clearly.
Not a stressed husband. Not a misunderstood man. A person who believed I existed to make his life convenient. I whispered, "Where were you last week?" Jason's eyes flicked, just once. What? Asked where you were. I repeated, voice steady. Because Ryan. Jason's face changed instantly. The color drained a little. His jaw tightened. Why are you bringing your brother into our marriage? He snapped. My heart pounded. So you were on a plane. Jason's expression turned into forced calm. Claire, you're spiraling. I laughed once, small and bitter. That's your favorite word. He stepped closer, lowering his voice like he was trying to keep things under control. Listen to me. You didn't see anything. Ryan probably misunderstood. And even if what? I cut in before I could stop myself. Jason's eyes narrowed. Even if I was traveling, it's for work. You don't get to interrogate me like I'm your child. My mouth went dry. Were you with someone? Jason's face hardened. You're crazy. There it was. Full gaslight. I felt tears rise again, but I blinked them back. Don't call me crazy. Jason scoffed. Then stop acting crazy. I stood there shaking, and he walked past me like I was nothing. He went into his office and shut the door. A minute later, I heard the lock click. He was locking me out of his own room, in my own house. I went to our bedroom and closed the door, hands trembling. Then I opened my phone and looked again at Ryan's photos. I stared at the girl's face. She looked young, maybe early 20s, pretty in a glossy, effortless way. And she was wearing my hoodie like she belonged to him. I whispered to myself, okay. Not okay like I accepted it. Okay like I was finally done being confused. The next day, Jason acted like nothing happened. He made coffee. He kissed my cheek. He even asked, "Do you want to go shopping later?" I looked at him, amazed at how smoothly he could switch. I said softly, "Sure." Because I wasn't going to blow my cover. Not yet. That week, he pushed the paperwork again. He brought home a folder and set it on the kitchen counter like it was a gift. Just sign where I highlighted, he said casually. It's boring, but it'll make things easier. I stared at the folder, forcing myself to breathe slowly. What is it? Tax adjustments, he said. Some protection stuff. Trust me. I opened it, and my heart started racing. It wasn't just tax adjustments. It was a cleaned-up version of the post-nuptial agreement I'd found in his drawer. The same language, the same clauses, and there were signature lines waiting for me like open mouths. I looked up at him. This is a post-nuptial. Jason smiled like he'd been expecting me to be too clueless to notice. Yeah, and? Married people do them all the time. Why didn't you talk to me about it? I asked. Jason's smile thinned. Because you'd react like this. Like what? Like you're being attacked, he said, voice calm. Claire, I'm protecting us. My stomach turned. It protects you. Jason's eyes flashed. No. It protects the future. You don't understand how money works. That's why you should let me handle it. I set the folder down carefully. I want time to read it. Jason's face tightened. It's standard. I still want time, I repeated. Jason leaned closer, voice dropping. Claire, don't make this difficult. My heart pounded. I'm not signing anything without understanding it. Jason's expression changed, sweetness fading, something colder replacing it. He said, "Do you want to stay married?" I froze. He continued, voice quiet but sharp. Because I can make this very simple. Or very messy. My mouth went dry. Are you threatening divorce? Jason shrugged like it was nothing. I'm offering clarity. Either you trust me or you don't. And if you don't, then what are we even doing? I stared at him, realizing the trap. If I refused, I'd be labeled the unstable wife who wouldn't cooperate. If I signed, I'd be signing my life away. So I did the only thing I could do in that moment. I smiled softly and said, "Okay, I'll sign. Just not tonight. I have a headache." Jason's shoulders relaxed again, like he'd won. He kissed my forehead and said, "That's my good girl." I almost flinched when he said it. After he went to bed, I stayed up and took photos of every page. Then I searched through our email records and found something that made my hands go cold all over again. A confirmation for a new bank account. In Jason's name. With a secondary authorized user, not me. Someone named Madison Hale. My heart dropped. Madison. A name I'd never heard. But the girl in the photo looked exactly like someone who could be named Madison. I stared at the screen, breathing shallow, trying not to panic. Then I saw a second email thread. A hotel reservation in San Diego. 2 guests. Jason Harrington and Madison Hale. My stomach turned so hard I thought I might throw up. I sat on the floor in the dark, phone glowing in my hands, and realized I was no longer dealing with suspicion. I was dealing with a timeline, and the timeline showed Jason wasn't just cheating. He was building a whole second life with money, with trips, with paperwork, while keeping me at home like an obedient background character. The next morning, I called Ryan. He answered immediately. "Talk to me." "I found her name," I whispered. "Madison Hale." Ryan's voice went tight. "Okay.
Okay.
Keep screenshots. Email yourself copies. Back them up." "I also found an insurance policy," I said, voice shaking. "A big one. Jason's the beneficiary." Ryan went silent for a second, then said, carefully, "Claire, that's not normal." "I know," I whispered. "And there's an add-on about travel incidents." Ryan's voice dropped. "Listen to me. If Jason tries to get you on a trip, you say no. You understand." My throat tightened. He already suggested a reset trip. "Absolutely not," Ryan said. "And Claire, this is important. If he senses you're onto him, he might rush whatever he's planning." I swallowed hard. "What do I do?" Ryan exhaled. "We get you legal advice. Quietly. We get you safe. And we get proof locked down." I nodded even though he couldn't see me. "Okay. But life doesn't pause just because you finally see the truth." Jason sensed something. Not because I was sloppy. Because manipulators can feel when they're losing control. He started picking fights over tiny things. If dinner was late, he sighed dramatically. If I asked a question, he acted like I was interrogating him. If I looked sad, he said, "Here we go again." And then he started the isolation. He told me my friends were bad influences. He rolled his eyes whenever my mom called. He even said, "Ryan has always been weirdly involved in your life. It's unhealthy." One night, he took my phone from my hand and said, "Who are you texting so much?" I forced a laugh. "Just Lauren." Lauren was my best friend from college, one of the only people Jason couldn't easily demonize because she was calm and polite. Jason stared at me for a long second, then handed my phone back. "Good. I don't like secrets." I wanted to scream at the hypocrisy. Instead, I smiled, because at that point I was living 2 lives too. The obedient wife life Jason wanted, and the quietly collecting evidence life he didn't know existed. Then came the day he tried to lock me in. It was a Thursday morning. Jason came into the kitchen holding 2 mugs of coffee like a commercial husband. He smiled and said, "I have a surprise. For you." My stomach tightened instantly. "What kind of surprise?" I asked, keeping my voice light. He set 1 mug in front of me and sat across the table, eyes bright. "My mom wants to host a small family dinner this weekend." I forced myself not to react. "Okay." And he continued, tapping the folder. On the table, the post-nuptial folder, the one he kept pushing. "We're going to Finalize this before then, so everyone can relax. My hands went cold around the mug. I tried to sound casual. Why before?
Dinner?
Jason smiled. Because it's a clean start, Claire. A reset. You've been emotional. My mom thinks structure will help you. Structure. My heart pounded. This wasn't about helping me. This was about cornering me. And if I don't sign? I asked quietly. Jason's smile faded. Don't do this. I'm asking, I said, voice steady. Jason leaned forward, eyes sharp. If you don't sign, you're telling me you don't trust me. And if you don't trust me, then maybe you shouldn't be my wife. There it was. The threat wrapped in logic. I took a slow breath and said softly, I need a day. Jason's jaw tightened.
No.
I blinked. What? You signed today, he said calmly. I already booked an appointment with the notary. 2:00. My pulse jumped. You booked, without telling me? Jason smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes. Because I knew you'd overthink it. I stared at him, feeling trapped. Then I forced a small smile. Okay. Jason's shoulders loosened like he'd just won a battle. He stood up, kissed my forehead, and said, Good.
See?
That wasn't hard. The moment he left for work, I grabbed my phone and texted Ryan and Lauren in a panic. Me. He booked a notary for 2 p.m. He's forcing me to sign. Lauren, do not sign. I'm calling a lawyer friend. Ryan, I'm coming now. I'm not waiting. My hands shook as I paced the living room. I looked at the front door, at the windows, at the quiet street outside. And for the first time, I didn't just feel betrayed. I felt unsafe. Because if Jason was rushing paperwork, maybe he was rushing the next step too. The notary appointment never happened. Not because Jason changed his mind. Because Lauren saved me. At 1:30, she showed up at my house with her car parked like a barrier in the driveway, eyes fierce. She didn't even sit down. She said, Claire, pack a bag. My throat tightened. What? Now, she repeated. My lawyer friend says if you suspect coercion, do not go to a notary without independent counsel. And also, Ryan is already in the air. He wants you out of the house before Jason gets home. My chest felt tight. If I leave, he'll know. Lauren's voice softened just a little. He already knows something's changing. That's why he's tightening the leash. I swallowed hard. I walked into my bedroom and opened my closet, hands trembling. I packed only essentials, documents, a few clothes, my laptop. I grabbed my passport, my birth certificate, and every piece of evidence I'd copied. When I came back into the living room, I looked around at my house, my couch, my wedding photo on the shelf, the little plant by the window. It hit me suddenly that I might never feel safe here again. Lauren touched my arm. Let's go. I followed her out, heart pounding. And then, right as we stepped into the driveway, Jason's car turned onto the street. My blood turned cold. Lauren muttered, Oh my God. Jason pulled in fast, like he'd been speeding. He got out before the engine fully died, eyes locked on my bag. What the hell is this? He snapped. I forced my voice to stay steady. I'm going to stay with Lauren for a couple days. I need space. Jason laughed sharply. Space? From what? From being pressured, I said, keeping my words careful. Jason's eyes narrowed. You're being dramatic. I took a breath. I'm not signing anything today. His face changed. Not into sadness. Into rage. He stepped closer, voice low.
Claire.
Get back inside. Lauren moved slightly, putting herself between us. She said no. Jason glared at her. This is none of your business. Lauren's voice didn't shake. When someone's being coerced, it becomes everyone's business. Jason's jaw clenched. Then he did something that made my stomach drop. He smiled. A calm, controlled smile. And he said, Fine.
Leave.
I blinked, surprised. He leaned closer to me, voice soft enough that Lauren couldn't hear. But don't forget, he murmured, I can ruin you if you want to play games. My breath caught. He straightened up, looked at Lauren, and said louder, have fun filling her head with nonsense. Then he walked back to his car like he wasn't shaking with anger underneath. He drove away. Lauren grabbed my hand. Get in. I got in her car, heart pounding, and as we pulled away, I looked back at the house. Jason was standing in the driveway watching us go, completely still. And I realized something terrifying. He wasn't trying to stop me because he cared. He was letting me leave because he was already planning how to punish me for it. That night, at Lauren's apartment, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jason's calm smile. He looked like a man who had already decided the ending. The next morning, my phone lit up with a message from Mrs. Harrington. If you're trying to embarrass my son, you're going to regret it. I stared at the words, my hands shaking. Then another message came. From Jason. Come home today. We'll do this the easy way. And a minute later. Or we'll do it the hard way. My chest tightened. Lauren sat beside me, reading over my shoulder, and whispered, Okay, this is not just marriage drama anymore. I swallowed hard, because I knew she was right. And deep down, I could feel it. Jason wasn't just cheating.
He was setting me up for something.
And now that I'd stepped out of the role he assigned me, he was ready to erase me from the story, legally, financially, and socially. By afternoon, Ryan finally landed and came straight to Lauren's apartment. The moment I opened the door and saw my brother, I almost broke. Ryan pulled me into a hug so tight, I could barely breathe. You're okay, he murmured. You're here. You're okay. I clung to him, shaking. When he pulled back, his eyes were intense. Show me everything. We spread it all out, photos, screenshots, documents, insurance pages. Ryan's face stayed calm, but his jaw flexed as he read. Lauren's phone buzzed with her lawyer friend's message. And as we started connecting the dots, one horrible truth became clear. Jason wasn't improvising. He was executing. That evening, Ryan said, we need a formal lawyer, not just advice texts. Lauren nodded. And we need to anticipate his move. I swallowed hard. What move? Ryan looked at me, eyes steady. He's going to try to control the narrative. He'll make you the villain. And right on time, my phone rang. Jason. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Ryan nodded at me like, answer. Let him talk. I took a breath and picked up. Hello. Jason's voice was calm. Too calm. Claire. Yes. I'm giving you one last chance, he said softly. Come home tonight. We'll talk.
We'll sign.
We'll move on. My throat tightened. I'm not signing anything. Jason sighed like I was a child. You're making a mistake. I want my own lawyer, I said, voice shaking but firm. There was a pause. Then Jason's voice turned cold. Okay, he said. Then I'm done being patient. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means, he said slowly, you'll find out what happens when you try to embarrass me. The call ended. I stared at my phone like it had burned me. Ryan's voice was low. He's going to escalate. And he did. The next day, my mom called me crying. Claire, she said. What is going on? Jason's mother called me. She said you cheated. She said you ran off with another man. My blood went cold. I whispered. What? Mom sniffed. She said Jason found messages. She said you're unstable. She said you're trying to steal money. My hands started shaking. Lauren swore under her breath. Ryan's face went hard. And in that moment, I realized Jason wasn't just threatening to ruin me. He had already started. That afternoon, we met with a lawyer named Ms. Caldwell. Sharp eyes, calm voice, no nonsense. She reviewed the documents, the messages, the insurance policy, the postnuptial draft. And then she said something that made my stomach drop even further. Claire, she said carefully, this insurance policy is unusually large for your income profile. And the timing of these agreements suggests he's creating leverage, financial and legal. I swallowed. Leverage for what? Ms. Caldwell looked at me, serious. Divorce. Asset control. And potentially to put you in a position where you can't fight back. Ryan's fist clenched. Lauren's face went pale. I whispered, So what do I do? Ms. Caldwell leaned forward. You do not meet him alone. You do not sign anything. And we move first. Move first how? I asked, voice trembling. She slid a folder toward me. Temporary protective measures, she said. And a formal request for financial disclosure. My heart pounded. If I do this, it's war. Ms. Caldwell's voice stayed calm. It's already war. You just didn't know you were in it. That evening, Jason's final move for this stage arrived. A courier showed up at Lauren's door with an envelope. Inside were divorce papers. Not just divorce papers. Papers claiming I had abandoned the marriage, I was emotionally unstable, I was financially reckless, and I needed to be restricted from accessing joint accounts for protection. I stared at the pages, my hands shaking so badly the paper rattled. Ryan's voice was tight. He's trying to freeze you out. Lauren whispered. He's trying to erase you. And then my phone buzzed again. A message from Jason. Sign the agreement, and I'll keep this private. Refuse, and everyone will know what kind of woman you really are. I stared at the screen, throat tight, tears burning my eyes, because it hit me so hard in that moment. He wasn't asking me to sign for our future. He was asking me to sign as my own execution, not in a dramatic movie way, in a real-life way where a woman loses her home, her reputation, her money, and her voice because she trusted the wrong man. I wiped my eyes and looked at Ryan. He nodded once, slow, and I realized I wasn't alone anymore. But I was still terrified, because the divorce papers weren't the end. They were the beginning. And as I sat there holding them, I could almost feel Jason's next move coming, something bigger, something riskier, something he'd been building toward the whole time. Something that would force me to fight in public, or lose everything quietly. Ryan, my pilot brother, caught Jason in business class with another woman and sent me proof. I found a huge life insurance policy on me with Jason as beneficiary, plus a postnuptial he tried to force me to sign. When I refused, Jason and his mother started spreading lies that I cheated, and he served me divorce papers designed to erase me financially and socially. I didn't cry when I read the divorce papers the second time. The first time, yeah, my eyes burned and my throat felt like it was closing. But the second time, after Ms. Caldwell explained exactly what he was trying to do, something in me hardened. Not into cruelty, into survival. Lauren's apartment suddenly felt too small for the size of what I was fighting. The air felt thick. My phone kept buzzing with messages from people who were confused or concerned, which was just a polite way of saying they'd already heard Jason's version first. And Jason's version painted me like a villain who didn't deserve sympathy. Ryan sat at the kitchen table with his arms crossed, looking like he was holding himself back from doing something stupid. He's not a violent person, but I could tell he was imagining 100 ways to handle Jason. Lauren poured water into a glass and slid it toward me. Drink, she said gently. My hands were still shaking when I held it. Ms. Caldwell had told us to move quickly, quietly. The kind of quickly that doesn't look dramatic from the outside, but changes everything behind the scenes. First, she said, we secure your access to money. Then we secure your safety. Then we control the narrative with evidence. I stared at her like she was speaking another language. Control the narrative? She nodded. He's already doing it. We're just going to stop letting him. That night, we did the first humiliating thing I'd done since I left Jason. I went back to my own house to collect my things like a thief. Not because I did something wrong. Because that house wasn't safe anymore. Ryan drove. Lauren sat in the back with me, holding my hand the whole time like I was a kid. When we pulled up, the lights were on. Jason's car was in the driveway. My stomach flipped. He's here. Ryan's voice was calm but tight. We're not going inside. I need my documents, I whispered. My laptop. Lauren squeezed my hand. We already got the copies you needed. Ms. Caldwell said do not enter that house while he's there. I swallowed hard. But my clothes. Ryan looked at me in the rearview mirror. Claire, listen. Clothes can be replaced. You can't. My throat tightened. I stared at the front window and felt this weird grief. That was my home. And now I was afraid to step inside it. Jason came to the front door like he sensed us. He opened it and stood there in the porch light, arms folded. Even from the car, I could see his expression, calm, smug, like he was waiting. Ryan didn't move. Lauren didn't move. My phone buzzed. A text from Jason. Stop hiding behind them. Come inside and talk like an adult. I stared at it, my chest tight. Ryan muttered, he's trying to bait you. And then Jason did something even worse. He walked down the steps and came closer to the car, like we were old friends meeting up. He leaned toward the passenger window. Ryan sighed and smiled. Ryan, he said, voice loud enough for all of us to hear, you really love being the hero, huh? Ryan didn't roll down the window. Back up. Jason's smile stayed. You know, Claire's always been dramatic. I've been patient for years. But she's spiraling and you're feeding it. My hands started shaking. Jason leaned closer, like he was trying to perform for an invisible audience. You should have stayed out of our marriage. Ryan's jaw flexed. Get away from the
car.
Jason shrugged, and his eyes flicked too. Me in the back seat. Then he said it, soft like a knife. Claire, I can fix this. You just have to come home. I swallowed hard and forced myself to
speak.
With a lawyer present. Jason's smile disappeared. Oh, so you're going to make this ugly. You made it ugly, I said, voice trembling. You lied. Jason sighed, like I was exhausting him. There you go again. Accusing, imagining, twisting. Lauren leaned forward. Jason, stop.
We
have proof. Jason's eyes flashed to her cold.
Of what?
Your little airplane story? Ryan's face hardened. Jason stepped back, hands up, acting innocent.
Fine.
Do what you want, but don't cry when you realize no one believes you. He walked back toward the house like he had the upper hand. And as Ryan drove away, my stomach sank. Because I knew what Jason was betting on. He was betting that truth wouldn't matter as much as the story he told first. The next morning, Ms. Caldwell filed for temporary orders, financial restraint, no asset transfers, and a formal demand for disclosure. She also told me to document everything. Every message, she said. Every threat. Every attempt to corner you. He's going to slip. I didn't think Jason would slip. Jason was too controlled. Too careful. But I underestimated something. I underestimated how angry he'd get when he realized he couldn't force me into his paperwork trap. That same day, I walked into our bank. My bank, technically, because I'd opened the account years before meeting Jason. My hands were sweating as I approached the teller. I felt like everyone could see I was falling apart. A woman named Denise greeted me with a polite smile.
Hi.
How can I help you today? I swallowed. I need to check my accounts. There might be unauthorized activity. Denise nodded, professional. Of course. Do you have ID? I handed it over, heart pounding. She typed, frowned slightly, then looked up. Mrs. Harrington, there are some recent changes. My stomach dropped. What changes? Denise hesitated, like she was choosing her words. There was an attempt to add an additional authorized user to your personal account last week. My mouth went dry. Who? Denise read from the screen. Jason Harrington. I felt cold. That's my husband. Denise nodded. The request was flagged because your signature didn't match the one on file. My breath caught. Jason had tried to forge my signature. Denise continued quietly. The request didn't go through. But it was attempted. I gripped the counter so hard my fingers hurt. Can I get a copy of that request? Denise hesitated again. I can print a record of the attempt and the flag, yes. I nodded quickly, trying not to shake. Please. When she handed me the printout, I stared at it like it was a weapon. Because it was. It wasn't just my word anymore. It was a bank record saying Jason tried to control my money without my consent. I walked out of the bank and sat in my car, breathing fast. Then I called Ms. Caldwell. When she heard what happened, her voice sharpened. Good. That's exactly what we needed. Email me the document immediately. I did. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something that wasn't fear. I felt momentum. That evening, Lauren came home with another piece of information. Her lawyer friend had done a quick search on Madison Hale. Okay, Lauren said, dropping onto the couch beside me. This is interesting. Ryan looked up from his laptop. What did you find? Lauren scrolled. Madison Hale, not her real name, I'm pretty sure. Or at least, she doesn't have much history under it. But there's a Madison Hale connected to a small event planning company in San Diego. My stomach twisted. Event planning? Lauren nodded.
Yeah.
The company name is Coastal Bloom Events. Ryan leaned forward. Why does that matter? Lauren's eyes flicked to me. Because Jason's company had a partner office in San Diego, right? I swallowed. He said that. Lauren tapped the screen. And Coastal Bloom Events lists a corporate liaison with the same email domain as Jason's company. My heart pounded. So, she's connected to his work? Ryan's jaw tightened. Or she's part of whatever scheme he's building. I thought about the hotel booking. The second bank account. The way Jason said, once everything is signed, we're done pretending. I whispered, he's not just cheating. He's transitioning. Lauren frowned. Transitioning. From me to her, I said, voice thin. From my life to theirs. Ryan's gaze sharpened. And he's trying to make sure you leave with nothing. Ms. Caldwell called the next morning with another move. I want you to get a full independent review of your medical records, she said. Not because you're sick, because he might try to claim you're unstable or incapable. We need to close that door. I blinked. Medical records? She continued. Also pregnancy tests, fertility tests, anything related to the way his mother keeps humiliating you. If they've been telling people you're unfit or broken, we counter with facts. I swallowed hard. Okay. So I went to my doctor. My doctor. Not someone Jason recommended. A clinic across town with a calm waiting room and a nurse named Alana who spoke to me like I was a human being. When the doctor, Dr. Patel, sat down with my chart, she looked at me kindly. You're under a lot of stress, she said. I let out a shaky laugh.
Yeah.
She asked some questions. Basic mental health screening. Sleep. Appetite. Safety. Then she said, physically, you're healthy. Your vitals are fine. Nothing suggests impairment. I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for weeks. But then Dr. Patel added, there's something else. I see you had a set of fertility labs done last year at a clinic you don't normally use. My stomach tightened. Jason's mom insisted. Dr. Patel frowned. These results are incomplete, and the clinic's notes are unusually vague. My chest tightened again. What does that mean? Dr. Patel spoke carefully. I can't accuse anyone of anything without evidence. But I can tell you this. Based on your current labs, there's nothing that suggests you're infertile. My eyes stung. What? She nodded. Your hormone levels are within normal range. There's no clear indication of infertility from what I'm seeing now. I felt dizzy. All those dinners. All those comments. All those humiliations. And it might have been based on lies? I whispered. So why do they say I couldn't have kids? Dr. Patel's expression was gentle. Sometimes people weaponize medical language. If you want certainty, I can refer you for a full reproductive workup. But today, I can tell you that there's no reason for anyone to call you broken. I walked out of that clinic shaking, but not from fear. From rage. Because it wasn't just Jason and Madison. It was Jason's mother, shaping the narrative that I was less than, so I'd accept being treated like disposable. That night, Ryan sat across from me and said quietly, we're going to do this smart. I nodded, eyes burning. I want them exposed. Publicly. Ryan's mouth tightened. We will. But we do it where they can't wiggle out. Lauren leaned forward. Where's the place Jason cares about most? I didn't even have to think. Airports, I said, voice steady. His image. His successful businessman act. His status. Ryan's eyes narrowed. And his mother loves being seen too. She loves being respected. Lauren snapped her fingers. So we hit them where their pride lives. Ms. Caldwell had another idea that made my stomach flip. Jason's company is holding a corporate travel mixer in the airport lounge next month, she said. I blinked. How do you know that? She said calmly, because I have ways of checking public corporate event listings and vendor permits. And because Madison's event company is listed as the coordinator. My blood went cold. So it wasn't random. Madison wasn't just the affair partner. She was actively involved in Jason's public image and corporate connections. Ms. Caldwell continued, that mixer will have executives present. Clients. People who matter to him. And it's in an airport lounge. Public. Controlled. With security. Ryan's eyes flicked to me. That's the stage. Lauren whispered. That's perfect. My heart pounded. What do we do there? Ms. Caldwell's voice stayed steady. We don't ambush in a chaotic way. We present evidence in a legally clean way. We request a formal meeting on site with HR and corporate counsel, and we do it with documents and witnesses. Ryan exhaled. I can be there. I work that day. I can be in uniform. Lauren looked at me. And Jason can't pretend he doesn't know you when your pilot brother is standing there with the photos. My hands shook. He'll panic. Ms. Caldwell said, let him. Panic makes mistakes. Over the next 2 weeks, my life became a strange routine of rebuilding and preparing. I stayed at Lauren's place, but Ms. Caldwell helped me arrange a short-term rental under my name, somewhere Jason couldn't casually show up and corner me. Ryan installed a basic door camera for me. He also made me promise that I wouldn't meet Jason alone no matter how reasonable he sounded. Because Jason tried that next. One afternoon, he called me with a voice so gentle, it almost fooled me. Claire, he said softly, this is getting out of control. My mom is upset. People are talking. Let's meet at a cafe, just us. No lawyers. No drama. My stomach clenched. I forced my tone to stay calm. Put it in writing through Ms. Caldwell. Jason sighed. You're really going to destroy our marriage over paranoia? There it was again, making me feel guilty for reacting to his betrayal. I kept my voice steady. I'm going to protect myself. Jason's voice chilled. Protect yourself from what? Your imagination? I didn't answer. Jason continued, sharper now. You know what, Claire?
Fine.
If you want war, you'll get it. The call ended. 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed with an email from Jason. A settlement offer. It looked polished, legal, reasonable on the surface. But Ms. Caldwell read it and immediately said, this is a trap. I stared at her.
How?
She tapped a clause. He's trying to get you to waive rights to contest the insurance policy and any financial irregularities. He wants you quiet. Ryan's jaw tightened. He knows he left fingerprints. Lauren whispered. So, we keep collecting. And we did. Ms. Caldwell subpoenaed records. Denise from the bank provided documentation of the forged signature attempt. Ryan forwarded the photos and video with timestamps and flight details. Lauren pulled public vendor listings showing Madison's company involvement. And then the biggest plan arrived, not from a file but from a person. A woman named Maria. Maria had been our housekeeper for 6 months, hired by Jason's mother to help me, which really meant to monitor me. I always treated Maria kindly. I offered her tea, asked about her kids. I didn't talk down to her. One evening, Maria called me from a blocked number. Mrs. Harrington, she whispered. My heart jumped. Maria? Her voice shook. I'm sorry to call like this, but I think you should know something. I sat up straight. What is it? Maria hesitated. Mr. Jason, he's been taking documents from the office drawer. He told me not to touch anything. But yesterday he left papers on the table, and I saw your name. My stomach turned. What papers? Maria whispered. A travel plan. A couple's retreat. He said to someone on the phone. She'll finally calm down once we get her out of the city. Cold went through me. I forced myself to stay calm. Did he say where? Maria hesitated. I heard, Catalina.
Catalina.
An island getaway.
Pretty.
Romantic. Isolated. My chest tightened. I thought about the insurance policy. the travel add-on. The way Ryan said Jason sounded panicked, not guilty. My voice came out thin. Maria, did you see anything else? Maria whispered. His mother came over. They argued quietly. She said, don't do it while she's making noise. And he said, then she should have signed. My hands started shaking. My breath came fast. This wasn't just divorce manipulation anymore. This was a man talking like I was an obstacle. Maria's voice trembled. I don't know what it means, but I felt scared for you. Tears burned my eyes. I whispered, thank you. Maria said softly, please be careful. When the call ended, Ryan stared at me, eyes hard. Catalina? I nodded, shaking. Lauren's face went pale. That sounds like isolation. Miss Caldwell's voice was calm, but firm. This is why I told you not to meet him alone. I swallowed hard. He was going to take me somewhere. Ryan leaned back, jaw clenched. And something could have happened. Ms. Caldwell spoke carefully. We can't claim intent without direct proof. But we can treat this as a safety risk and use it to strengthen protective orders. Lauren whispered, and it adds motive. I sat there trembling, suddenly understanding the scope. Jason wasn't just trying to win a divorce. He was trying to control the outcome by any means, financial, legal, social, and possibly physical. And if I'd been the old Claire, lonely, ashamed, desperate to fix my marriage, I might have gone on that trip. I might have signed those papers. I might have disappeared in a way that looked like an accident. The day of the airport lounge mixer came faster than I expected. It was planned like a glamorous corporate event. Business travelers, executives, catered drinks, a step and repeat banner with the company logo. Jason loved that kind of scene. It fed his ego. Mrs. Harrington loved it too because she could stand beside him and feel important. And Madison would be there because her event company was coordinating it. Ms. Caldwell gave me strict instructions. You're not going there to yell, she said. You're not going there to expose like a reality show. You're going there with a structured request for an on-site meeting with the right people present and with evidence ready. My heart pounded. What if Jason tries to twist it? She gave me a calm look.
He will.
That's why we bring witnesses and documents.
Ryan wore his uniform that day.
Seeing him in it made my throat tighten because it reminded me that while Jason played games, my brother's job was literally about keeping people safe. Lauren came too, dressed simple but confident, holding a folder like she was ready to go to court right there. We arrived early and stood slightly back from the lounge entrance. I could hear laughter inside. Clinking glasses. People saying words like quarterly growth and client retention. It was so normal and so fake at the same time. Ryan leaned close and murmured, "You ready?" My hands were cold.
No.
He nodded. That's okay. We're doing it anyway. We walked in. And for a second, no one noticed me. Because I didn't matter in Jason's world until I interfered. Then I saw him. Jason stood near the banner, wearing a tailored suit I'd once helped pick out. He looked polished, confident, charming. Mrs. Harrington was beside him in a cream outfit that screamed money. And Madison was there too, standing close, smiling like she belonged, wearing a sleek dress, holding a clipboard like she was both professional and intimate. My stomach turned. She looked up and laughed at something Jason said. Then she touched his arm, like it was normal.
Like I didn't exist.
Lauren's hand brushed mine. Breathe. I forced air into my lungs. Jason turned his head and saw me. For a split second, his face went blank. Then the panic flashed across his eyes. Just like Ryan said it would. Jason's smile twitched, like his face forgot which mask to wear. Mrs. Harrington noticed the shift and turned too. Her eyes landed on me. The color drained from her face so fast it was almost impressive. And then Ryan stepped forward, calm, tall, unmistakable in uniform, and said, loud enough for people nearby to hear. So, should I show everyone the photos, or are you ready to tell the truth? The lounge went quiet in a ripple. Not fully silent, but enough that heads turned. Jason's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Madison blinked rapidly, her smile slipping. Jason. Mrs. Harrington hissed. What is this? My hands were shaking, but I stood straight. I looked at Jason and said, You told me you were home. Jason recovered just enough to sneer. Claire, this is not the place. Lauren stepped forward and said, calm and clear. Actually, it is. Since you've been spreading lies, forging signatures, and trying to force her into agreements without counsel. Jason's eyes flashed. Forging? Are you insane? Ryan pulled out his phone and said, Funny you say insane. You've called her that a lot, right? Want to keep doing it in front of your colleagues? Mrs. Harrington's voice rose sharp. You're embarrassing my son. I finally looked at her, fully. You embarrassed me for years. At dinner tables. In front of your family. Like my pain was entertainment. Madison's eyes widened. Jason, who is she? Jason snapped, She's my wife. Madison's face went still. The clipboard in her hands lowered slightly. And in that moment I saw it. She didn't look shocked like a woman discovering an affair. She looked annoyed like something inconvenient just happened. Like she thought she was beyond this. Madison's jaw tightened. You said you were separated. Jason's eyes darted. We are. Ms. Caldwell stepped into the lounge then, like she'd been waiting for her cue. Professional, calm, carrying a neat folder. She approached a nearby man who looked like senior management. Badge, posture, confident face. Mr. Anderson? She asked. He blinked, startled. Yes? My name is Patricia Caldwell, she said. I represent Claire Harrington. We need a private room, now, with corporate counsel present, regarding serious legal and financial concerns involving Mr. Jason Harrington. The man, Mr. Anderson, looked from Ms. Caldwell to Jason, confusion turning into alarm. Jason forced a laugh. This is ridiculous. It's a personal matter. Ms. Caldwell's tone stayed even. It involves forged bank requests, coercive agreements, and misuse of corporate travel and vendor coordination in connection with an extramarital relationship. The words landed like stones. People around us pretended not to listen, but they absolutely were. Mr. Anderson's face hardened. Jason, is that true? Jason's smile cracked.
No.
This is my wife being emotional. I felt my hands tremble, but my voice came out clear.
No, I said.
This is me refusing to be erased. Ms. Caldwell opened the folder and handed Mr. Anderson a document. This is a bank record showing an attempted unauthorized signature change flagged by the bank, she said. We have date stamps. We also have documented threats and a pattern of coercion. Mr. Anderson's eyebrows lifted. Jason stepped forward, voice low. Patricia, let's not do this here. Ms. Caldwell looked at him like he was a child trying to negotiate after getting caught. We're doing it exactly here. Because you've been relying on privacy to control her. Ryan stepped slightly to the side and held up his phone. And if anyone thinks this is emotional, Ryan said, here's business class, seat 3C, with Madison wearing Jason's hoodie while he texted my sister that he was home on a call. Jason's face went gray. Madison's eyes flashed in anger. You took photos of me? Ryan's voice was calm. I took photos of my brother-in-law lying to my sister. Mrs. Harrington's mouth opened, but she didn't speak. She looked like she might faint. Jason tried to grab Ryan's phone. Ryan stepped back instantly. Don't. Jason's breathing turned shallow. His eyes darted around like he was looking for an exit. And then, because panic makes people stupid, Jason snapped at me, loud. You're doing this because you're jealous, he shouted. You couldn't give me a child, you couldn't be grateful, and now you want to destroy me. The lounge went so quiet that sentence felt like it echoed. My chest tightened, not from shame this time, but from a sharp clarity. Because he said it. Out loud. In front of his colleagues. He had just admitted the exact humiliation his mother used as a weapon, and he used it too. I swallowed hard and said, Thank you. Jason blinked.
What?
Thank you for saying that. I said, voice steady. Because now everyone can hear what you've been doing behind closed doors. Mr. Anderson's face tightened. Jason, you need to come with me. Jason's mouth opened again, but he couldn't find words fast enough. Mrs. Harrington finally spoke, voice trembling. "This is a misunderstanding." Lauren cut in, calm but firm. "It's not. And we have documentation of the smear campaign, too. The calls to her mother. The texts. The threats." Madison stepped back like she suddenly didn't want to be seen standing near Jason. Her face was stiff, controlled, but her eyes were sharp. She looked at Jason and said quietly, "You told me you were free." Jason whispered back, "I am just." Madison's mouth tightened. "You're messy." Then she turned away right there in the middle of a lounge and walked toward the exit like she'd just decided he wasn't worth the public stain. That hurt in a weird way, not because I wanted her to stay, but because it proved something. Madison wasn't some innocent girl who accidentally got involved. She was making a business decision. And she just decided Jason was bad for business. Mr. Anderson motioned toward a side room. Ms. Caldwell looked at me. "Claire, you don't have to go in, but you should be present for what's said." My heart pounded. Ryan leaned close. "I'm right here." I nodded. We went into the room. Corporate counsel joined. HR joined. Jason sat like a man shrinking into a suit. Mr. Anderson spoke first. "Jason, explain." Jason tried to smile. "This is personal. She's unstable. She's..." Ms. Caldwell slid documents across the table one by one. Bank flag on forged signature attempt. Screenshots of Jason's threats. Hotel reservation showing Jason and Madison booked together. Vendor listing tying Madison's company to the event and corporate liaison emails. Ryan's timestamp photo and video. And then Ms. Caldwell added something that made Jason's eyes widen. "A safety concern," she said calmly. "Mr. Harrington attempted to pressure my client into a private trip while holding a large life insurance policy on her with himself as beneficiary, combined with coercive legal paperwork he attempted to force her to sign without counsel." Corporate counsel's face changed instantly. HR's expression tightened. Mr. Anderson went still. Jason's voice cracked. "That's insane." Ms. Caldwell's tone stayed professional. "We are not accusing him of intent. We are stating facts that establish risk and pattern." Jason's breathing turned fast. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw real fear, not because he hurt me, but because he might lose control. Mr. Anderson said quietly, "Jason, you're being placed on administrative leave pending investigation." Jason's head snapped up. "What?" Corporate counsel added, "You will also be required to cooperate fully with financial disclosure requests and review of corporate travel usage." Jason's face went pale. Mrs. Harrington wasn't in the room, but I could imagine her outside, panicking, furious, trying to hold her reputation together like it was a glass vase cracking. Jason turned to me, voice low. "Claire, don't do this." I looked at him, heart pounding, and said, "You did this." After the meeting, I walked out into the lounge feeling like my legs were made of jelly. People stared. Some looked sympathetic. Some looked uncomfortable. Some looked like they were glad it wasn't them. Mrs. Harrington stood near the bar area, gripping her purse so tight her knuckles were white. When she saw me, she stepped forward, her voice shaky with anger. "You're a disgusting woman," she hissed. "You ruined my son." I laughed once, small, exhausted. "Your son ruined himself." Her lips trembled. "He gave you a life." "He gave me a cage," I said. Mrs. Harrington's eyes filled with furious tears. "You'll regret this." Ryan stepped beside me, calm and solid. "Threaten her again, and we'll add it to the file." Mrs. Harrington went stiff. Then she turned and walked away, chin high, like she could still control how she looked. But her hands were shaking. I could see it. And it was satisfying in a way that felt almost guilty. Almost. The next weeks were messy, but different messy. Not messy like I was drowning alone. Messy like we were cutting through a knot with sharp tools. Jason's investigation at work didn't end well for him. He wasn't fired instantly like in some fantasy. But he lost access to certain accounts. He lost trust. He lost the shiny image he loved. And when corporate travel and vendor coordination got reviewed, The connection to Madison's company became a problem. He wasn't just cheating. He was blending personal and professional in a way that made the company nervous. That kind of nervous doesn't go away. In the divorce process, Ms. Caldwell used the bank record and coercion attempts to push for stronger protections. Jason tried to paint me as unstable, but Dr. Patel's documentation shut that down fast. He tried to claim I abandoned the marriage for another man, but Ryan's proof of his travel lies and the timeline made him look ridiculous. And the biggest shift of all happened when my mom stopped crying and started getting angry. One day she called me and said, voice shaking with fury, "I believed them for 5 minutes, Claire."
5.
And then I remembered you. And I remembered that woman's tone on the phone. "I'm so sorry." I swallowed hard. "It's okay, Mom." "It's not okay," she snapped. "No one gets to paint my daughter like that and walk away clean." That was when I realized the smear campaign had backfired. Jason tried to isolate me. Instead, he activated the people who truly loved me. Lauren stayed my rock. Ryan stayed my shield. And Ms. Caldwell stayed my sword. A few months later, the divorce finalized under terms Jason clearly didn't want. Because the more he fought dirty, the more the court took his credibility apart. He didn't get to freeze me out. He didn't get to bully me into silence. He didn't get to use paperwork like a weapon without consequences. The insurance policy got canceled under legal pressure and scrutiny. Jason had to explain why it was created, why it was so large, and why I was never properly informed. That alone made him look like a man who couldn't be trusted. Mrs. Harrington tried to insert herself constantly, calling, sending messages, demanding meetings. Ms. Caldwell shut it down with one firm notice. "Do not contact my client directly." And for the first time in years, Mrs. Harrington had to obey someone who wasn't afraid of her. As for Madison, I found out through Lauren's digging that she quietly removed Coastal Bloom events from any public association with Jason's company. She disappeared from his orbit, like she was erasing a mistake, which proved something to me. She didn't win. She didn't steal my husband like a prize. She got exactly what she chose, an unstable man who lied easily. And when his lies became public, she walked away. Jason tried to reach out once, months later. He sent a message that started with, "I miss you." I stared at it for a long time. Not because I missed him too, because I couldn't believe how shameless he was. Then he added, "My mom says you turned everyone against me." I laughed, actually laughed, out loud, alone in my new apartment. My new apartment wasn't fancy, but it was mine. No locked drawers I couldn't open. No folders waiting to trap me. No man telling me my place. I didn't reply. I blocked him. And when I finally sat on my couch with a mug of tea, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time.
Peace.
Not perfect peace, but real peace, the kind that comes from knowing you're no longer living in someone else's plan. Sometimes people ask me if it was worth it, making it public like that. And I always say yes. Because men like Jason survive in silence. They survive when women feel too embarrassed to speak. They survive when family pressure keeps you quiet. But the moment you bring light into their carefully controlled world, they start cracking. And the crack becomes a collapse. Now, my life looks simple from the outside. I work again, nothing glamorous but stable. I'm rebuilding my savings. I'm rebuilding my confidence. I'm rebuilding my relationship with myself. And my brother Ryan still flies, still calls me, still checks in like he always did, but now when he says, "You safe?" I can answer honestly, yes. As for Jason, he didn't die or disappear in a dramatic way. He did something worse for a man like him.
He lived.
He lived with consequences. He lived with people whispering. He lived with colleagues watching him differently. He lived with the knowledge that the wife he thought was easy to control became the reason his masks fell off in public. And Mrs. Harrington? She lost the biggest thing she truly loved.
Control.
Because she couldn't pull me back into that family dinner table and slice me up for entertainment anymore. She couldn't treat me like a placeholder. She couldn't call me worthless in private and still look respectable in public. She had to sit with the fact that her son wasn't a victim. He was the architect of his own downfall. And me? Now I know I was never really worthless. I was just stuck in a house that refused to see my value. From everything I went through, I learned that if someone needs you quiet to love you, that isn't love, it's control. If you ever feel like you're being erased slowly through shame, paperwork, and pressure, please remember you deserve safety and the truth on your side. If you've ever gone through something similar or you want to share your own story, write it in the comments below. Don't forget to share this story with your friends, like the video, and subscribe so you don't miss the next stories.